Welcome, everybody. I'm Keith Schaefer, editor at investingwhisperer.com. With me today is Steve Swatton, CEO of K2 Gold. And K2 Gold is actually my #1 exploration pick for 2021. They've got an asset here that Steve's going to get into in a little bit of detail that I think just has incredible multi-million ounce potential. And so all this is packed up into a share structure that's quite tight with a world famous team. Steve has got quite the resume and he's got a great supporting cast. But today on these backstage passes, we're going to try and do a little bit deeper dive and on the geology here of the Mojave property. And so, Steve, thanks for joining us today. And I'm going to hand the floor over to you and let you speak.
Thanks very much, Keith. And it's nice to hear that it is your #1 pick. But look, there's a good reason why this property has a lot of potential. It was drilled in '97 by BHP. BHP is a company I worked for subsequently, so I do have some insider knowledge as to the reason why they were so excited about it. They pulled out because at the time they had a dispute with the vendor of the property. It went into litigation. But if I'm going to go down into the geology, the reason why they were so excited about it is it's 3 kilometers length. At the northern end of it, it seems a silicified ridge called Dragonfly. And we drilled from 2 platforms. We've done 9 holes from those 2 platforms. And the southern end of it is called Newmont. And we've done a further drilling program with 2 platforms to the south. What we're beginning to realize, geologically speaking, is that the northern end is very quite different from the southern end. And we have mentioned in press releases that we think there may be a combination between Carlin style and typical epithermal style of the Walker Lane type potential. And it is becoming evident that the trace element geochemistry to the north and the south is quite different from each other. What we think is happening is there's a cross structure becoming between the two. So in the north, where you have silicified and extremely altered mineralization occurring in relatively narrow zones, you've got up to 20-gram material right from surface. Towards the south, where the discovery was made by Newmont in the late 80s, early 90s, it's a different type of geology. It's limestone hosted, more maybe of the Carlin style that you would be more familiar with, or most people would be more familiar with further to the east. We seem to have a fluid geochemistry which is becoming a little bit erratic at times, where there's more faulting and there's more epithermal sort of influence. There's definitely more silicification, and that tends to be to the north. Bear in mind that we still have 14 holes that we've yet to have analyzed. We have had some results in, but unfortunately the analytical companies are giving us the results piecemeal. So we have half a hole here, half a hole there, and we're yet to actually get the results back from our rock sampling program, which was from an area called Upland Valley. Upland Valley is about 1 to 2 kilometers west of both of those zones that I mentioned, that where's mineralization, Newmont and Dragonfly. And this area had some old sites from the turn of the last century. You can see there are old prospects. We could actually still see the paperwork in some of the claim posts. We actually panned a very small amount of gold from one location there, and the mineralization is absolutely destroyed, beaten up. And interestingly, that's the only location we've actually seen some intrusive material. We've seen intrusive rocks in that area. So we're fairly excited about potential, simply because it's 3 kilometers of length and it goes right underneath a pediment to the north. So look, we don't know what it really means, but of course we're using a lot of geophysics. We're using some types of soil geochemistry to try and bring out the essence of the gold, particularly in an area to the north called Gold Valley. We're seeing an unusual anomaly, which is off a splay from the north of Dragonfly. Now, coincidentally, we also have just south of that quite our largest mag anomaly, which both have never been drilled. We don't know how deep that overburden is in the area, but we have multiple targets. Now, this property that we have is about 10 kilometers by 10 kilometers. And at the moment, all we're exploring is the eastern side of the property. The western side we haven't even touched, and we don't plan to touch for a long time. But that was the area where BHP particularly were interested towards the end, because there may be some copper potential. All I'm talking about and all we're concentrating on is the east, but it's a multi-commodity property. We have to the west copper. To the east of that zone, there's some old adits that the old timers, that was the first adits. One of them is called the Pete Smith mine. And then to the east of that, we become epithermal. So you could almost imagine there's if you like, there's an epithermal overprint on a porphyry type system. And what we're looking at is a broken and chopped up eastern end of this porphyry system with some, I would say there's more base metal type. I would say the geochemistry seems to have more of a base metal smell to it in the north and the south. We're still learning a lot about the geochemistry, but it's extremely interesting area. The nice thing is all the mineralization is always right from surface, Keith.
Right. And I remember the first set of results you guys put out was a quite high grade oxide gold at surface. So you want to maybe give us a little more detail on what you've seen so far from the lab?
Yeah, well, I would love to. We have a lot of results back, but we don't have one hole where we have the whole length back from the lab, but we will be producing those. So we're seeing it in piecemeal, and I can say that, you know, it's holding together as we expected, but I'm not going to put out half a hole. It just wouldn't make sense. But in terms of the rocks that we're seeing and the integration of, if you like, the Landsat data that we have from Worldview 3, the geochemistry and the geophysics, it's really becoming an interesting area to the north of Dragonfly, to the northwest of Dragonfly. There seems to be another area of potential which you haven't even explored yet. This area just keeps delivering one anomaly after the next, and it's difficult to focus on where we should be. I mean, we're focusing on where work was done before because of the type of environmental regulations that we're being constrained within. We're concentrating where the permitting has been permitted, but there's a lot of other locations on the property which we think has equally as good potential, but we don't want to get there yet because we don't want to become unfocused. But we're right on the edge of Cerro Gordo mines. To the north is the Cerro Gordo mine, which is the reason why Los Angeles became a port, because it was the port for the lead zinc ores, which were brought down by the Mexicans originally and then the Americans after that at the mid 1800s. It's an incredibly rich mineralized district, and we are just exploring the gold part of it. But the edge of our property to the north, there are base metal mines. One's called the Morning Star, which is a multi-commodity copper, gold, lead, zinc, silver mine. And we're looking at a silver property, which seems to be epithermal with some kaolin overprint. There's a lot of different types of mineralization occurring in a very small area.
But we have put out one release that had something like 84 meters of 4 grams. So we've got some results out, or did I misconstrue that? Or
no, absolutely right. I mean, we thought they were going to come, you know, one after the other, because those samples were submitted, I would say, back at the end of October, and we just thought, okay, we're going to get them all at the same time. Well, it seems as if the lab that we're using lost a lot of employees, and for one reason or another, all of the samples are getting slightly mixed up. So we're expecting within the next week it all to get sorted out. So we expect news flow this time next week. I'll be very surprised if we don't have a couple of news releases out.
Wow, so that's fabulous, because honestly, I know you've spoken so highly, and as well as John Robbins and Chris Taylor, of the quality of and size of alteration there. Both those gentlemen thought it was one of the best assets they've seen at that early stage of development, and you've certainly done an amazing job at keeping everything together, both in the permitting and the social license side. So literally within a week to 2 weeks, we're hopefully going to get our next big update on K2 Gold.
Absolutely. It's going to be the next, okay, it looks like we're done here.
That's right. Our time, we only have a few seconds left. Thanks so much for joining us today, Steve. Okay. God bless
Thank you. Bye.